Thank you very much for coming to my presentations, which is about jobs for refugees and how we are trying to help refugees both in Germany and in Australia to find work. In my presentation, I will speak about background of a refugee crisis. I will also say what initiated the team to do this project. I will speak about different team members, how we approach it, and the successes we have done so far. So let me start a little bit about the refugee crisis, just to recap, and I'm sure you know figures already quite well. In 2015, alone towards Germany, about 1 million people came. They came from as refugees. Mostly they came via the Balkan, the so-called Balkan route. Among these countries, there are different countries where they come from. As we can see, Syria is number one, which accounted for about 300,000 people coming to Germany. And interestingly, number two would be Kosovo, and about a third of our refugees actually come from the former Balkan countries. So number three, Afghanistan, which is also a quite strong refugee country. Number four, Albania, another country from a Balkan. So we have a situation that refugees have different likelihood of getting acknowledged to work by the German authorities. So basically, the likelihood of someone coming from Albania is quite low of being accepted as a refugee, while Syria acceptance rate is nearly 100%. So Iraq is another country where quite a number of refugees come from, and the German government has a quite high percentage of these people being accepted. And then we have other countries like Eritrea. So we have some African countries. Next one would be Serbia. So again, the Balkans. So we can see the Balkan actually accounts for quite a high number of refugees. However, the likelihood of getting accepted is not that high. Pakistan, Ukraine, Nigeria, Somalia. So these are countries where the likelihood of being accepted at the moment in Germany is quite low. So there's different types of refugees. The people who get accepted as refugees in Germany are mostly from Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq, to just say it briefly, and from the other countries, as I said, likelihood are not as big. So you can see that different countries take different amounts of refugees. In terms of number of refugees, total number of refugees in the European Union, Germany is leading. But when you look on a worldwide level, Germany is quite small. When you see how many people Turkey took, or there are some African countries like Sudan and places like that who take huge numbers of refugees, but we have never heard about them. And there are many inland refugees too. I think just within Syria itself, there are a couple of million people who are inland refugees, which are often not seen in some of the statistics. Now, in terms of the number of refugees, Germany took most of the European Union. However, Germany is also the most populous country. When you look on how many refugees are taken per capita, countries like Sweden or Hungary actually have higher numbers per capita. And a couple of countries have similar numbers per capita, like Germany, like Switzerland or Austria is quite comparable, or Denmark. So there are some questions so far to this statistics. I think for us Germans it's pretty clear. So now these refugees come here, and it's quite some burden. Germany is not prepared to this huge amount of refugees, and as I said before, from this 1 million, about 500,000 actually get accepted as refugees. The others will not get accepted. And the way I see it is, many of these people are actually not here to stay. So some people of these countries, like Albania, or whatever, they even don't have to be pushed back officially by the government. Some of them will migrate back again. So at the end, we are talking mostly about 500,000 people we have to deal with in Germany. And when we look on the contribution refugees can do, this chart is quite different to what you often hear in some more popular speakings, which means that refugees not only cost money, take jobs, increase crime rates and stories we hear, but they can be a huge benefit to countries. And I have listed a couple of great examples of refugees. And Steve Jobs didn't come as a refugee, but he was born in Homs in Syria. He was adopted by an American family. And the company which he founded, Apple, has a higher value than the whole refugee program of the United States since the existing of the United States. So that one person already pretty much was a really good business case for United States. And there are other fantastic examples. And since I did a similar speech in Australia too, I looked for an Australian example, and there is Harry Trigubov, who came from Russia as a refugee, and he spent his first years driving taxi in Sydney until he started his construction company, and it's now a super successful construction company. He built 55,000 apartments so far. When you see the skyline of Sydney, and there are many high-rise buildings being constructed at the moment, 1/3 of his large construction sites actually show the name of his company. So these are fantastic success stories. And these people, like Harry, will become successful anyway. But the question is, how long will it take? And was it necessary what he was driving a couple of years taxi? Wouldn't it be beneficial for Australia if he could actually start it through much earlier? And this is what initiated us to our initiative. So when refugees come to Germany, they have different issues. First of all, they need to arrive, they need a place to stay, they need psychological support because about 40% of them are traumatized. And these things can be overcome relatively quickly, and with many people getting some treatment after 6 months, the trauma mostly is gone for people, so then they can actually look into actively working. And then we have two issues still remaining, which is language and work. And our initiative is focusing on the work part. The language part also certainly an issue. The thing is, the people are going to German classes because you have to see one thing. These people, they are here to stay. This will become new Germans, these people. So thinking we will be here just a couple of months and then we'll go back. Many refugees actually think about this. And when I speak with people who had been refugees 20 years ago, when they came as refugees at that time, they thought we will go back to their own country, to Bosnia, for example, after a couple of months, and we are still here. So it's quite well. We have to accept the fact that these people will become Germans, and hopefully successful Germans, like success stories. Some of them hopefully like the success stories which I have shown you before. So learning the language is very important, but from my point of view, if I have to learn a new language like German, maybe I don't want to learn it the whole time. I would like to do it maybe half time, and the other part of the time I want to do also work. And especially when I speak with Syrian men, the Syrian men, it's really embarrassing not to have a job. So it's pretty terrible for them. So giving people a job solves a lot of problems, and this is where we can help. And that's the Jobs for Refugees initiative, and it's a cooperation of 3 organizations, which is Assinhaus Stuttgart e.V., the junior business team, and I will speak a little bit about the junior business team, which is students from University of Hohenheim, and freelance market, which is my company. So just to quickly say a little bit what the freelance market does. In 2004, I started a marketplace for freelance people, and here in this circle I already gave a speech about this. And what the freelance market does really well is getting people and jobs together. This is what we do really well. And what became clear to me was that facility I can pretty easily use also for refugees to find jobs. Actually, I was approached by one of the big churches here to help them to create a marketplace for refugees. And after some time, however, the decision-making process of large organizations like one of the churches is quite big, so we couldn't move ahead because it was too complicated, bureaucratic. So we decided just to do it without big sponsor, but just non-for-profit associations and my company. And my company is in several countries, including Australia as well, and I have one part of a company which is English-speaking, which is called Freelance International. So Germany, it's freelancemarket.de, in Australia, freelancemarket.com.au, and Freelance International as a German marketplace, but also reaching the German audience. So just quickly about me. So I have quite some background in doing some benevolent work before, and in this circle I spoke about my activities for Esperanto, and I spoke about the film festival, which I did as a non-for-profit thing. So at the moment I'm focusing on the refugee topic because it's such a hot topic, and I can definitely help in that because I already have the tools available. I have already marketplace. So let's speak a little bit about the junior business team. The junior business team, these are students of University of Hohenheim. University of Hohenheim is well known for MBA studies. And some of the MBA students want to become business consultants later after university time, a career which I already did before. And to become, to increase their chances of getting recruited by one of the big consulting companies, they are already having their registered non-for-profit association, their eingetragener Verein, which is a business consultancy, a student business consultancy. So we do an approach like a professional business consultants would do, but it's all run by students. And 4 students actually volunteered saying we want to be a team to actually drive the Jobs for Refugees project ahead. And so I can present to you the project manager, Luis Danzo. He is German. His father, he looks a little bit darker, so that's because his father is from Senegal. So then we have Turab. So he's a project manager, Turab. So these are all students, MBA students. And Turab is German with Turkish roots. Then we have Sebastian Gold, who did another project before with refugees, so he has some background in the field, and also Sebastian Steinle. And it's not only this for students, since this is a student business consultancy, they have an overhead, and they have 2 quality managers actually who actually help the project to perform well. So in total they have 6 students are involved in driving the project, because I couldn't do it on my own. And besides the people from ASEAN House and Junior Business Team, I have also other people who volunteer to this project, and I will come back to this a little bit later. In Australia, where I do similar type of project, many of the people who are helping are former refugees. So people from Croatia, people from Vietnam or from Iraq who came 15, 20 years ago, who actually established themselves very well in Australia, and now they want to give back. And they are more than happy to work on this project because we know what it means to be a refugee in a new country. And among the people who support me in Stuttgart, we have Jennifer here, who just joined the team, helping to do some work in the marketing sphere. Yeah, I'm happy if more and more people would help in the team. We all do it not for profit. There's no money involved. Everyone is doing it completely without payment. So it's maybe like a type of grassroots movement. So yeah, since we are student business consultants, of course we do perfect project plans and approaches. Being a business consultant myself, it's quite nice to see how the students actually are copying what the big consulting companies do and have all these processes. So they have a project plan which has basically 3 phases. Phase number 1 is to understand the legal background, like when are refugees allowed to work and what type of materials do we need, how do we need to register like a business or a tax number and things like this. It's our part number 1. Part number 2 is to actually get refugees on our database. And so the target group, because I'm running a marketplace for freelancers, so I'm very good in introducing freelance people to clients. So I can help refugees who have a similar background, so basically refugees who are academics. And in Germany, the estimation is there's a good 50,000 people here in Germany, refugees, who have a study or have a very profound trade, like photographer and so on. Or we have one refugee from Afghanistan. He worked as a cameraman before for Afghani television, and people like this. So this is the people where we can definitely help. And so my estimation is it's about good 50,000 people. The numbers from the German government say that the people in Syria, about 20% of them actually have academic studies. And most of the people listed have work experience in their home country. So we are trying to get to reach these people, and it's a challenge. We try to reach them via different associations. There's a lot of helpers groups in pretty much every community, every municipality in Germany. So like we have contact with Flüchtlingskreis Hohenheim, or I've been presenting at Sachsenheim or Weinstadt. There's a lady here from Flüchtlingshilfe in Fellbach, and so on. So we have to reach to these groups to reach refugees. There are different ways to reach them, but this is one way. We also use language classes to reach refugees, or we try to make refugees being multipliers. So refugees who are listed on the platform can already recommend it to other refugees. So we have different approaches, and as soon as we have enough refugees on the platform, then we will approach the companies to recruit the refugees. And so to reach out for refugees, we have some flyer, which is a bilingual flyer to explain how refugees can register. For them, it's completely free of charge. So since I run a company for freelancers, of course I need money for this. I have to pay also my people, but we do it completely for free, the whole service for if it's about refugees, legitimate refugees in Germany. So this is bilingual, and they can register either in German on the German marketplace, freelance market, or if they don't speak German yet, we can also register on the English marketplace freelancer.international. And so after we have built enough refugees in the database, and I will come back to it later, we can reach out to companies. We have not started yet. So we have a flyer prepared to tell companies these are refugees, and the companies also don't have to pay anything. The only thing they have to pay is to the refugee. So 100% of the money we pay go directly to the refugee, because the service from our side is completely provided free of charge. And when I speak with German companies, if they are interested to recruit refugees, pretty much everyone says yes, definitely, and if possible, tomorrow. We want to have this refugee tomorrow already. And the reason why we want the refugees, I think, is there are two reasons for it. Reason number one is we want to help, and reason number two is we have such a shortage on qualified people in Germany. So if the refugees can fill in a gap, then we are really happy. So the company says, yes, please, we need a refugee or someone, but we are happy to take a refugee. If possible tomorrow, and it should be a machine tool engineer who has experience with gearboxes. Or something super special. Yeah, you know how our industry is built. So we need super specialized people, and that's why we want to build up the database. So we have actually a big choice of the right people who are needed as experts. Because these people, they are people who don't come as unexperienced people. They have experience. They have skills in the field, more skills than the company itself. So we can really help. And here I have some examples of refugees that we have listed. It's pretty small printed, but I can give you some great examples of people. Like we have one refugee listed from Syria. He worked as a construction manager, managing construction sites, large construction sites, for 10 years for a Syrian company in Abu Dhabi, and he is now here as a refugee. Now, imagine a construction company here in Germany who is doing a project for a client in Saudi Arabia, having some trouble or whatever language issues, and we have a person like that who can speak Arabic and help them to manage this. Is just perfect. Or we have this person here. He studied American literature in Damascus, worked as a journalist for a newspaper in Syria, is now here. He's here now for 3 years. He has sent out 300 job applications. He hardly didn't get replies, and he didn't get a single job interview invitation. So this is super frustrated. And when I speak with the refugees and say there's a chance and whatever, they're so grateful. It's amazing. Yeah. Even before I find them jobs, they are so happy that German people are interested in them and try to help them. Maybe have similar experiences with refugees.
Yes. They are really very grateful.
Yeah. So we have fantastic people. Or one refugee is from Algeria. He is an agricultural engineer. So or people who are like managers or photographers. We have one person who's a programmer. He worked for the National Bank of Afghanistan. The IT department is now here. So these are fantastic people that we offer. Are there so far some questions?
Do these people speak German at the moment?
So far, now we are working really hard to get as many refugees as possible into the database. So far we have 30 refugees. 10 speak German, some German, at least level B1, so we can somehow communicate in German. But 20 of them don't have a German skill yet. Most of them are actually right now in language classes. So they have listed themselves on the English-speaking marketplace. Since we focus on people with an academic degree, these people typically speak quite decent English. The journalist who studied American literature, his English is so superb, it was quite amazing. Yeah. So it was quite amazing. English is not a problem. German is, but one of the ideas, since these people, they can work for the companies as freelancers. That would be small specialized jobs, and over time a company might decide to give them larger jobs, while in parallel they have time to learn the language. People ask me, why do we focus on freelance jobs and not permanent jobs? The main reason is I have already a marketplace for freelancers, so it fits better, so this is where I can provide more support. But on the other hand, starting as a freelancer actually can be much easier, because companies are a little bit careful about who will employ, and they say there might be some issues. These people have never worked in Germany, and there might be language issues, cultural issues, or whatever issues we don't know. So if we start on a freelance project, on a small project, we can test out the refugee and find some, extend the project, have follow-up projects. But if a companies want, we can also directly hire a refugee as a full-time employee.
Just got one question. I sometimes think the approach to learning German is a bit simplistic, because it is not an easy language.
Mm-hmm.
If I know this because I'm not German, if I'm competing in a meeting with German native speakers, it takes me 5 or 6 years to be able to express myself. Is this problem accounted for?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we can see on the employer's side is the companies would be happy if they find refugees who speak really good German, or at least German that they can work together on a professional level. There are companies who actually don't care, and also here in our city we have companies that already have employed just English-speaking people as engineers, like when you go to Hewlett Packard or in some research department of Daimler. We have experts, migrants, not refugees necessarily, and it's not an issue. So for some companies, speaking English is enough, but for most companies, speaking German would be pretty much a requirement. So you're right, learning German is absolutely helping, but we can even help the people who only speak English so far, and some employers might accept the fact that we have to communicate in English first, but within a couple of months their German gets better. So as I said, some of our refugees are recruited from language classes. Like we have one language class in Speyer. From that one class, already 3 refugees have listed themselves here. So their German is not great yet, but since they are in a language class, half of a day, you can expect it will be improved quickly in the next months. So doing something for refugees is creating a lot of positive support. Many people approach me, and like Jennifer said, yeah, how can I help? And also the media are embracing it. So we have Stuttgarter Zeitung, Stuttgarter Nachrichten, Antenne 1, Vorwärts. Last Monday there was a little report in Heilbronner Stimme, and so it's quite some positive echo on the campaign. The Jobs for Refugee campaign has also the intention to prove that refugees are good people for Germany. But because the main risk about getting refugees, from my point of view, is the German population, the sentiment of the German population. And having great examples, having a construction company who is so happy about a project manager who saves the project, or agricultural engineer who helps an agricultural company in terms of building the machines which are suitable for more dry environments and things like this. this type of success stories is one of the intention we try to create to get the positive message out to the people in the country. So this is something about the feedback I got from Germany. In Australia, where we do a similar campaign. Situation in Australia is somehow similar, somehow different. Australia takes 30,000 people on a humanitarian visa every year, plus additional 12,000 Syrians, which is a exceptional extra budget of people. And but the people who are accepted in Australia, they are already picked in refugee camps in Jordan, in Turkey, in Lebanon, and so on, and we get a nice ticket to come to Australia, and there we are treated like normal migrants. So there is quite a clear agreement within all Australians that these people have to be helped, and this campaign is creating quite big momentum. So here's Peter Chandler. He's a dean of University of Wollongong. He's the only dean at an Australian university who has Aboriginal roots. So he's quite well known and quite active in terms of equal rights for different ethnicities. And here is Tim Costello. I'm sure you have heard about World Vision. So he is the CEO of World Vision Australia and one of the leaders of World Vision worldwide. He is Victorian of the Year, nominated to the Australian of the Year. I think he is in every second talk show in Australian television, so everyone in Australia knows him. And by the way, his brother, Peter Costello, is the former long-year Australian finance minister. So he had 2 hours to talk with me about the project. So we have great possibilities to move the project ahead. I'm happy to have more volunteers for the different things, starting from things like managing some projects. Also, if you know someone who could support in terms of legal things, like when we go to some authorities in Germany, some authorities are still not known about what to do with refugees. So if a refugee goes to the Ordnungsamt and says, I want to register a business, sometimes we don't know exactly what to do. So far we have done it completely without funding, but that might be another option. To get some funding as well, because each refugee who is employed is saving quite a lot of costs for the country and is really helping the sentiment towards refugees in the country. People who coach, then also people who are happy to reach out towards the employing companies, marketing, media relations, like video, which we produce here, is also something which can stretch beyond what influence we have here. And people want to do some scientific support about it to see how this project works. Most of all, and maybe I should have put it on number one, providing access to qualified refugees. So, because the German government says the refugees are distributed in a decentralized way, which I think is great. Not, at least ideally, not in big camps, but just living in every street. There might be an apartment available, a refugee family or whoever's living there. But that also means it's quite tricky to reach out towards them. So if someone has some ideas how to reach with refugees, that's great. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. We have 2 websites. So for English-speaking refugees, freelancer.international/refugee, and for German-speaking refugees, freelancemarket.de/Flüchtling. Thank you very much.